You are lying in bed. The room is dark. Your body is tired, but your mind is holding a meeting. It is reviewing everything that happened yesterday. It is planning everything that must happen tomorrow. It is rehearsing conversations that may never come. It is solving problems that do not yet exist. And somewhere in the middle of all this busy, exhausting work, you wonder why you cannot rest. Here's the thing most people never realize: the mind believes it is helping you. It believes that if it just thinks hard enough, long enough, carefully enough, everything will be safe. Everything will be controlled. Everything will finally be okay. But here is the truth that took me many decades to understand. The more tightly you grip a thought, the more power it has over you. And the moment you finally learn to release, not give up, not stop caring, but release, something extraordinary begins to happen. Life starts to move again. Today, I want to talk to you about this, about what overthinking really is, where it lives in the body, and what becomes possible when you learn, slowly, gently, to put it down. And near the end, I will share with you one small morning practice. I call it the empty cup moment. It has been part of my own life for more than 40 years. I have saved it for the end because I want you to understand why it matters before I give it to you. Stay with me. By the time we finish today, you will understand why your mind overthinks, and you will feel less shame about it. You will have simple, gentle practices you can try today in your own home, in your own chair, at your own pace, and you will see, perhaps for the first time, that a quieter mind is not a weaker mind. It is, in fact, a wiser one. I am Master Ming. I am 86 years old, and I am still learning. If these words are helpful to you, I hope you will stay close. Subscribe if you wish. Think of it as walking this path together at a slow and comfortable pace. Teaching 1. What overthinking actually is the first thing I want to tell you is this. Overthinking is not a flaw. It is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is not weakness, and it is not a disease. It is, in its original form, a gift. Long ago, very long ago, human beings survived because their minds were always watching, always scanning, always asking, is this safe? Is there danger here? What might go wrong? That mind kept us alive. But we no longer live in forests where tigers wait behind trees. We live in houses, in neighborhoods, in families, and yet the mind has not received this message. It is still scanning, still watching, still asking what might go wrong. Now, about the phone call you did not return, the look on your daughter's face, the news you heard this morning, the health of your knees. The mind is doing its job. It has simply forgotten that you gave it a new one. There is a teaching I return to often. Imagine a river. In the mountains, the river runs fast and white. It crashes over rocks. It is loud. It carries everything with it: branches, leaves, stones. There is so much movement, so much noise that you cannot see the bottom. But further down, where the land flattens, the river slows. And when it slows, you can see clearly through to the stones below. The water has not stopped. It is still moving, but it has found its natural pace. This is what we are reaching for. Not a stopped mind, not an empty mind, just a mind that has found its natural pace. The first practice is simply this. Begin to notice the difference between a thought that visits and a thought that moves in. A thought that visits says, I am worried about my son. A thought that moves in says, I am a worried person. I will always be worried. Nothing will ever be okay. One is true. One is the story built on top of the truth. You do not have to stop your thoughts. You only have to begin noticing which kind they are. That is enough for now. That single noticing, that moment of recognition, is the first thread of freedom. Teaching 2, the body knows before the mind does. The second teaching is something many people overlook. The mind is loud, so we listen to it, but the body has been speaking quietly the whole time. I knew a man once, a farmer older than me, from a village not far from where I grew up. He was a hard-working man, a good man, but he carried his worry in his shoulders. You could see it when he walked. His neck was always forward, as if he were bracing for something coming at him. His jaw was always slightly tight. He did not know this. He had lived that way for so long that it felt normal. One afternoon, I asked him to simply sit and breathe. He looked at me as if I had asked something very strange, but he sat, and he breathed, and after a few minutes, something in his face changed. He said, I did not know I was holding that. This is true for most of us. Overthinking does not live only in the head. It lives in the body. It lives in tightness across the shoulders, in a stomach that rarely fully relaxes, in a jaw clenched just a little, even while sitting quietly in a chair. The body carries what the mind cannot resolve. So here is something simple you can try right now, if you like, or tonight before sleep. Sit comfortably. Close your eyes if that feels safe. Take one slow breath in through the nose. Let it out slowly through the mouth. Now bring your attention gently, like you are carrying something fragile, to your shoulders. Not to change them, just to feel them. Are they tight? Are they raised? Are they pulled forward? Now your jaw. Is it loose? Or are the teeth just barely touching? Now your stomach. Is it soft? Or is there a holding there, a bracing, a waiting? You are not fixing anything. You are only listening. This is the beginning of trust between the mind and the body. And every time you do this, every single time, you are teaching yourself that it is safe to feel what is already there. This small act is not small at all. Teaching 3, the bamboo principle. The third teaching comes from something I have watched many times outside my window. Bamboo. If you have never watched bamboo in a storm, I want you to imagine it. The wind comes, strong wind, the kind that bends everything. And the bamboo bends. It bends so far that you think it must break. It touches the ground almost. It seems completely defeated. And then the wind passes, and the bamboo rises again, slowly, steadily, all the way back to where it was. Not broken, not scarred, perfectly itself. The bamboo does not fight the wind. It does not try to remain perfectly straight in the storm. It does not convince the wind to change direction. It does not spend the night before the storm worrying about what the wind will do. It simply bends, and then it rises. Overthinking is, in many ways, the opposite of bamboo. Overthinking tries to hold perfectly straight in the wind. It tries to control what cannot be controlled. It tries to think its way out of uncertainty before the uncertainty has even arrived. And so, it is always braced, always tense, always fighting a wind that may not even come. I spent many years like this, planning for every difficulty, preparing for every loss. I thought this was wisdom. I thought this was responsibility. But one of my teachers, a very old woman, very patient, said to me once, Ming, You are wearing armor to a tea ceremony. I have never forgotten that. So, here is the bamboo practice. When you notice your mind spinning on a problem, when it is going in circles and not arriving anywhere, ask yourself one question only. What is the one thing I can actually do about this today? Not everything. Not all the things you might need to do next week, next year, in every possible outcome. Just one thing today. If there is one thing, do it or write it down. If there is no thing, if the problem is not yours to solve today, then you can gently, with great kindness toward yourself, put it down. You are not abandoning it. You are trusting that when the time comes to act, you will act. This is not avoidance. This is wisdom. Teaching 4. Silence is not empty. The fourth teaching is one that surprised me deeply when I first received it. I was a young monk, much younger, much more impatient. I had a teacher I admired greatly, a quiet man. He spoke very little, and one morning I came to him with a great tangle of questions about my practice, about my life, about what I should do next. I spoke for a long time, and when I finished, he said, "Nothing." He sat in silence, not an uncomfortable silence, a full silence, a present silence, a silence that seemed to be listening even after I had stopped talking. I waited. I became uncomfortable. I shifted. I almost spoke again just to fill the space. And then, slowly, he looked at me. He said, "You came looking for answers, but you were not yet quiet enough to receive one." I left that day irritated. I was young. I thought he was being mysterious. But that evening, sitting alone, something in me settled. And in that settling, I understood something about my own questions that no answer from him could have given me. Silence is not empty. We treat silence like a problem, a gap that needs filling, a void. We reach for the phone, the television, the radio, another thought, another plan, anything to avoid the stillness. But inside the stillness is something that the noise always covers, your own knowing. Here's a very simple practice. It takes 1 minute. Perhaps you will try it tomorrow morning, before anything else. When you first wake, before you check the phone, before you speak to anyone, before you think about the day, sit on the edge of your bed or in your chair. Keep your eyes soft, not fully closed, not fully open, and simply be with the silence for 1 minute. Not meditating, not achieving anything, not emptying your mind, because that is impossible, and we should stop asking it of ourselves. Just sitting, just breathing, just being in the room before the day begins. In that 1 minute, you are giving yourself something very rare. You are giving yourself the beginning of the day before anyone else takes it. We are about halfway through our time together, and I want to remind you of something I promised at the beginning. Near the end, I will share the empty cup moment, the one small practice I have kept for more than 40 years. I have shared it with very few people. I am saving it for the end of our time together because I want everything we have discussed to prepare you for it. Before we continue, I want to ask you something, and I want you to answer honestly, in your own heart. When did you last let your mind rest completely? Not sleep. Sleep is different. Sleep can be full of its own movement and noise. I mean, awake rest, wakeful stillness, a moment where the mind was not carrying anything, not planning, not reviewing, not worrying, just present, just here, just breathing. If you cannot remember, you are not alone. Most of the people I have known could not remember either. That is not a failure. It is simply information. It tells you how much your mind has been working, how faithfully it has been trying to keep you safe, and how ready it might be if you give it permission to finally rest. Let us continue. Teaching 5. Letting the river run. The fifth teaching came to me by watching something I could not change. There is a stream near where I lived for many years. A small stream, nothing dramatic, just a quiet moving of water through a bamboo grove. And one spring, after heavy rains, the stream rose and changed course slightly. It began to move over a section of path where people walked. Some of the younger monks tried to redirect it. They placed stones, branches, their hands. The water simply moved around them or over them patiently, without anger, without any awareness that it was inconveniencing anyone. The water was not trying to cause trouble. It was simply following its nature. And eventually, the monks accepted this. They changed the path. The stream had been running perfectly all along. I think of this often when I watch people, including myself, try to stop something that is simply flowing the way it flows. Overthinking, at its deepest root, is a refusal to let the river run. It is the belief that if we think hard enough, we can find the answer that will stop the uncertainty, that will resolve the fear, that will make the future safe and known. But the future is a river. It runs, it changes course, it finds new paths we did not plan. Our work is not to stop it. Our work is to become good at moving with it. Here's a practice for the evenings, for those nights when the mind will not quiet. Take a small notebook, nothing special, just paper. Before you sleep, write down everything that is circling in your mind, everything worrying you, everything unresolved, everything uncertain. Write it plainly without trying to solve it. And then, this is the important part, close the notebook. Not discard it, not ignore it, close it. Physically close it. And say to yourself, quietly, I have heard you. I know you are there. We will return to this when the time is right. You are not dismissing your worries. You are giving them a place to rest. And in doing so, you give yourself permission to rest as well. Many people find that after this simple act, the night feels different. Not perfect, not silent, but a little more spacious, a little more kind. Teaching 6. What other people think is not your home. The 6th teaching is one that I needed to learn more than once. When I was a young man, younger than I would like to admit for this particular story, I was very concerned with what people thought of me. Not in an obvious way, I was not arrogant, but I was watching. Always watching whether I had said the right thing, made the right impression, been understood correctly. Always slightly anxious about whether the people around me approved of who I was. I did not recognize this as a form of overthinking. It did not feel like thinking at all. It felt like caring. But it was exhausting. One day my teacher, a different teacher, an older woman in our community, said something I did not fully understand until many years later. She said, Ming, a bird that lives in someone else's nest is never fully at home. I nodded, as if I understood. I did not. Years later, I did. What she meant was this: when your sense of peace, your sense of rightness, depends on what other people think of you, you can never be at home, because you're always living in someone else's nest, and they can rearrange it, or abandon it, or simply build a different one, and you will be left with nothing. Your home is inside you, your values, your kindness, the way you treat people when no one is watching, the way you feel at the end of a day when you have been true to yourself. This is the place overthinking cannot reach if you live there. So when you notice your mind spinning about what someone said, what they meant, whether they are upset with you, whether you did something wrong, ask yourself gently, what would I do if I were only trying to be a good person, not a perfectly understood person, not an approved of person, just a good one? That question will always show you the way home. And from home, the mind is much more quiet. The saved tip, the empty cup moment. And now we have arrived at what I promised you at the beginning, the empty cup moment. I want to tell you where this practice came from. When I was in my early 40s, which now feels like a very long time ago, I was going through a period of great inner noise. I will not describe all of it, but my mind was full. Plans and worries and grief and questions, all pressing against each other, all demanding attention at once. A senior monk visited our temple, a very calm man. Not calm in a distant way, warm, present, interested. But there was something about him that was like still water. I asked him once, "How do you stay so quiet inside?" He did not answer directly. He invited me to tea. We sat together, and he placed 2 cups on the table, both empty. He filled his own with tea, but he left mine empty. We sat for a while with the empty cup in front of me. I was uncomfortable. I wanted him to fill it. After some time, he said, "Look at your cup." I looked. He said, "Before it receives anything, it must first be empty." This is not a problem. This is the cup's most important moment, its readiness. Then he filled it. I have thought about that cup almost every morning since. Here is the practice, exactly as I do it, and as I have shared it with others over the years. In the morning, before your day begins, before email, before news, before conversation, make yourself a cup of something warm. Tea, if you like. Warm water with lemon. Whatever is gentle for you. Hold the cup in both hands before you drink from it. Feel the warmth. And sit for just a few minutes, 5 minutes if you can, with the cup still empty or just prepared, not yet consumed. In this time, do not try to solve anything. Do not try to be positive or grateful or mindful in any particular way. Just sit with the warmth in your hands. Just be the cup before it is filled. You are practicing emptiness, not as a philosophy, as a feeling. You are practicing what it is like to be ready, open, before the day pours itself into you. Because the day will pour itself into you. It always does. Demands and conversations and news and tasks and feelings, they will come. They always come. But for 5 minutes in the morning, you practiced being the empty cup. And that practice, accumulated over days, over months, over years, changes something. You begin to approach the day's fullness with a little more space inside, a little more room, a little more capacity to hold what comes without overflowing. The overthinking does not disappear. I will not promise you that. But it begins to have less power because you have practiced each morning what it feels like to simply be before you must do or think or solve or decide anything at all. That feeling becomes a home you can return to, even in the middle of a difficult day, even when the mind is running its meeting again. You close your eyes for just a moment. You remember the warmth of the cup, and something in you settles. This is, after 86 years of practice and stumbling and beginning again, the most honest thing I can offer you. Not a cure, not a method, just a moment of quiet, repeated faithfully, until the quiet becomes familiar, until it becomes yours. My friend, We have walked through several teachings today. We have talked about what overthinking really is: a faithful guardian who has not been told the danger has passed. We have talked about the body, which carries what the mind cannot resolve. We have talked about bamboo, which bends but does not break. About silence, which is not empty but full of our own knowing. About letting the river run without trying to stop it with our hands. About living in your own nest, not someone else's. And about the empty cup. These are not new ideas. They are very old ones. But old ideas, lived carefully, become something new. They become your own. I want to leave you with one final thought. A quiet mind is not an indifferent mind. It is not a mind that has given up caring. It is not a mind that has retreated from life. It is a mind that has learned to trust. To trust that not everything must be resolved tonight, that not every uncertainty is a danger, that life, real life, the actual texture of the days you are living, does not happen in the worrying about it. It happens in the spaces between the worrying, in a cup of tea, in the morning quiet, in the face of the person sitting across from you. When you stop fighting what cannot be controlled, something extraordinary happens. You begin to notice what is actually here, and what is here, the warmth, the breath, the small, ordinary beauties of an ordinary day, is more than enough. More than enough. You are at a good age. You have lived long enough to know that most of what you worried about did not arrive the way you feared, and that what did arrive, even the hard things you met, you survived them. You are here. Let that be evidence. You can be trusted to handle what comes. You do not need to think your way to safety. You are already safe enough to breathe, to sit, to hold a warm cup, to listen to an old monk speak slowly on a quiet morning. That is enough for today. May your mind find its river pace. May your body remember what it feels like to release. May you return every morning to the empty cup and to the readiness it teaches. Go gently.